Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my spiritual journey. I'm your host, Dave Thomas Rocker. And before we begin, I want to give a little plug for my book. I have a book available on Amazon called My Spiritual Journey. It's available for $30 in paperback, 15 in Kindle, and you can find it on Amazon.com. And I think you'll enjoy it. I talk about a lot of things I talk in these videos. So. Anyway, that's my plug for my book. And today I'm going to talk. This is my second video about dreams. I had another video I made last week about dreams. This one's a little more personal than my last one. I talk about a lot of dreams I've had, but I also talk about interpretations of dreams. And like I think I mentioned in my last video, Sigmund Freud around the turn of the century, published this famous book called The Interpretation of Dreams. I'm not a big Freudian, but the one good thing about Freud, I'd say, regarding dreams was he kind of turned dreams into a science. Before Freud, anything connected with dreams was, the way people thought about dreams was they thought they were supernatural or divine. It was all just kind of a lot of religious and superstitious nonsense connected with dreams. But Freud kind of he started talking about the subconscious and how dreams were a manifestation of our subconscious. I think there's also a spiritual element to dreams. Freud didn't seem to think so. So I think the truth is kind of between these two extremes. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. And there's also, in case you're interested in dreams, there's a lot of good websites about dreams. And here's just a little diagram showing what kind of things dreams can indicate to people. So I think they do say a lot of important things about what's going on in your mind. And if you're interested in knowing, what your interpretations of your dreams might be, there's a lot of good websites on that where you can just type in what your dream was about, and they'll tell you, common interpretations of those kind of dreams. So I'll talk about some of mine. I think I'm going to start by talking about some common types of dreams, which I've had, and I think most other people have had too. Very common type of dream is flying dreams. I think most people have had them. And I didn't have them for a really long time. I remember my first flying dream. I think I've only had like one or two flying dreams in my whole life. But I remember my first one, and it was pretty recently. I think I was about 45 years old. So it was about 15 years ago. And um, so I remember what happened was it started out kind of scary. I don't know what was going on exactly, but I think I was being chased or something. I was in a dark warehouse in downtown San Francisco, near the piers, and somebody was chasing me, I think. And I was trying to get out. And, I was crawling through the warehouse in the dark. Finally, I came up to a window. It was like a big window. Went up to the window and I jumped out and I started flying. And I was flying over San Francisco for about a mile. I was looking down at the Embarcadero. I was about 100, 200 feet above it and flying. And it was a pretty amazing dream. And, what flying dreams, like I said, are very common. And what they indicate, I think this is very commonly agreed upon, flying dreams indicate a sense of freedom. And, I must have, at that point in my life, that was probably the first time in my life I really felt a very powerful sense of personal freedom. I mean, most of my life I haven't. I can kind of understand why I didn't have my first flying dream until I was 45. Because for most of my life I felt like a slave. I mean, my parents were very strict with me when I was a kid, and my mom's a big control freak. And, I always felt most of my life, I felt like I was just doing everything other people wanted me to do, mostly my mom, and I didn't feel free. And I guess when I was about 45, that was probably about the first time in my life I really started feeling free. So I think that's kind of interesting. Another common type of dream is levitation. And interestingly, even though I didn't have my first flying dream until I was about 45, I had a lot of levitation dreams starting around age 20. I'd say between about age 20 and age 40, I had dreams in which I had telekinesis. I could make objects float around, and not just objects, but I could make myself float around. And most of these dreams, I made myself float. And I was just kind of floating around a room. I read on the Dream Bible what those kind of dreams indicate. What they indicate is that you seem to have some kind of superpower. You have these kind of, you're able to do things that kind of seem impossible. And it doesn't surprise me that I had those kind of dreams. Even starting when I was pretty young, because I am a math prodigy. I mean, as long as I could remember, I've been an amazing mathematician. I could multiply two three-digit numbers in my head, and when I was a kid, especially, I could do these math problems almost effortlessly. So it seemed almost like a special magical ability I had, and I guess it doesn't surprise me that I would dream about being able to levitate things because I could not explain why I have this amazing math ability, but I did, and to me, it must have felt as miraculous as being able to, have telekinesis and move objects around. And so, anyway, and what other? There's a couple other kinds of common dreams, recurring dreams. I've had a couple of these, not as many, I think, as most people. I've heard that recurring dreams are very common, and I remember, there's only really one recurring dream I ever remember. Well, actually, a couple. But the first recurring dream I remember having was when I was about 7 years old. It was pretty disturbing. Like I think I mentioned a few minutes ago, I was very intimidated by almost everybody I knew, even including my sister, even though she was younger than me. She became very bossy with me. She was a year and a half younger, but she was always telling me to do things, and if I didn't do what she said, she'd get me in trouble with my mom. And so I was very intimidated by her in real life. And I remember having this dream where I was outside, I think in our neighborhood on the street. I don't know if I was walking, I might have been walking slowly, but I saw my sister walking up to me from a distance. And I think it took a few minutes for her to catch up to me. But finally, when she got up to me, she said, "Don't go. Like, don't move." So I obeyed it because I was always obeying her. So I stopped. I stopped in my tracks and I let her walk past me in the other direction. And then about 5 minutes later, to my surprise, I saw her walking up to me again from the same direction as she had before. I was wondering how this was possible because either she walked around the whole world in 5 minutes or else she had been in two places at one time. I couldn't figure that out. But I waited for her again and she came up to me again. As soon as she came up to me, she said, "What's the matter? What are you standing there for? Go." And that was a very disturbing dream to me. She was telling me to do two contradictory things. And, it was a very disturbing dream. But then I had the same exact same dream almost, like maybe 6 months later. And the only difference the second time was that once she said go, I complained to her. I said, "You just told me not to go." And then she said something back. She kind of mumbled something back to me. I don't even remember what she said. And then I woke up. So that was a pretty disturbing recurring dream. Actually, I've had another recurring dream, and this other recurring dream is a lot more common. Apparently, I've had this is pretty recently. I'd say maybe when I was in my 30s and 40s, I had this recurring dream maybe 5 or 6 times. And the dream was that I had missed like a whole semester of college courses. And I've actually heard this is a very common type of dream. What it indicates is anxiety. And it's kind of, a lot of dreams are metaphorical. I think this one is as well. And I've even looked this up a few times. When you have a dream like this, what it really means is that you're very anxious that you haven't taken care of some critical task. And each time I had this dream, there was some critical task I was worried about. And either I didn't remember what I was supposed to do, or I kind of knew what I was supposed to do, but I was very anxious about it. I didn't think I could do it. So that kind of makes sense. Fortunately, I haven't had dreams like that lately. I guess I haven't been anxious in that way in the last 10 years or so. But anyway, yeah. So those are kind of common dreams a lot of people have had. Also, oh yeah, a couple other types. Nested dreams. I had some very scary nested dreams. Those are dreams within dreams. I only remember twice having nested dreams. First time was very scary. They were both very scary, but the first time I think I was about 12 years old, and I had a dream. The dream started out. I was, taking a road trip with my family. We took a lot of road trips in real life, but my parents were out, and we were taking a road trip in the countryside somewhere. I think it was in convertible. My parents had a convertible Pontiac, and we were out driving the country, just kind of having a good time, and it seemed like real life. I mean, because we really did take a lot of trips like this. And then my dad pointed out something really bizarre. There was like a temple on the side of the road. He told me to look at this temple, and it was a very, very weird temple. I mean, I'm Jewish. We used to go to temple, but it wasn't a Jewish temple. It wasn't a Jewish synagogue. It was more like a satanic temple or something. I mean, I think there was even fire coming out of the temple, and there were like these live demons guarding the gate. It was very scary. And, as soon as I saw this temple, I knew it must be a dream because I was very logical and I knew mystical temples with live dragons, demons didn't exist. So I woke up, or at least I thought I woke up, and then I was back in the car again. And this happened like 5 times or so. Each time, my dad pointed out something equally bizarre. I don't know if they were all these mystical temples, but they were something like that. And this happened about 5 times, and it was very disturbing to me. Finally, I woke up in my bed, and then I realized that that was the real reality. But it was pretty disturbing to me. And I had a kind of a similar recurring dream when I was about 16. This one involved a lot of medieval sorcery, and I don't even know where this came from because I've always been very grounded and hard science, especially when I was a kid and a teenager. I was a very hardcore rationalist. I didn't like anything connected with sorcery or magic or witchcraft or any of that. But I had these recurring dreams where I was in this kind of world of sorcery, and it was very scary because there were like dragons and there was all this magic going on, and I didn't want to be in this scenario, but I kept waking up like I did in the dream I had, with my family taking a road trip. I must have woken up about 5 or 6 times, and each time was experiencing all this really scary sorcery. And finally, as I was trying to make sense out of all this, I heard this voice of reason. Like everything kind of went dark, and then I heard this voice telling me, "We will learn of the truth through mistakes and through freedom." And I thought about this for a few seconds. All of a sudden, I heard 2 plus 2 equals 5 really loud, and then I woke up. And I think part of the reason for that at the end was I just read the book 1984 by George Orwell, very disturbing science fiction story in which the main character gets brainwashed into thinking that 2 plus 2 was 5, and I think that must have disturbed me. But so that was the last kind of recurring dream I had like that. Then also when I was in high school, I had a couple much more pleasant dreams. I had my first dream when I was about 15 years old of making out, kissing. And I hadn't kissed a girl. I didn't kiss a girl until I was in college, so I was like 19 years old. And I really wanted to when I was in high school, but I was very, very shy. I mean, I did have a crush on a girl when I was in high school. The whole time I was in high school, we never even went out on a date. I'm not going to name any names. I think if she's watching, she'll know I'm talking about her. But anyway, and in my first kissing dream, it wasn't even with her. It was with some girl I didn't even know. And the dream was kind of weird because I don't think I'd ever even been out on a date yet. But I was about 15 years old, and in the dream, this would never have happened in real life. But my dad had let me use his car to go out on this date with this girl in high school. I was just a freshman, and she was just a freshman. But I decided to take her out to the drive-in movie. And I'd never even been to a drive-in. I didn't even go to a drive-in until I was like in my 30s, and it wasn't even with a girl. But this is what happened in the dream. I went to a drive-in movie with this girl, and it was nighttime. We weren't even watching a movie. I just started making out with her on the car. And it was great. And then the sad part was I woke up and I was really disappointed that it wasn't real. Once I woke up, and almost the same thing happened to me about a year later. In the second dream, I was in high school dance, and they were it was a lot like a lot of the real high school dances I used to go to. There were these colored lights shining out from the ceiling, and I was having a really good time at this dance, which I usually did. I was dancing with almost all the girls there, and one girl I didn't even know who she was, but we started slow dancing, and I started making out with her. I must have kissed her about 50 times. People started gossiping. And then, after that dance, I started dancing with the girl I had a crush on, whose name I'm not going to mention, but I'd slow dance with her too. And at the end of the dance, we started kissing each other for about a minute or so. And then I woke up again, and again I was really disappointed that it wasn't real. But anyway, so then I had some other interesting dreams when I was in college and graduate school. When I was about, I think my freshman year of college, um, yeah, I remember one of the first dreams I remember. Well, I had another romantic dream. I think I'll mention first. There was another woman I had a crush on in college. Um, I guess I can give her name because I don't think I'm ever going to see her again. Um, Her name was Lisa. I can say her last name, but I had a big crush on her. She lived in my dorm, and she made it very clear that she was interested in me too. But I was just hopelessly shy at that time, and I never got involved with her, even though I think I could have easily done so. She was a gorgeous blonde, and I think I didn't want to get involved with her. Maybe I fooled myself into thinking I didn't in real life because I thought she acted really dumb. I mean, she kind of acted like Marilyn Monroe, which I think kind of turned me off because I never really liked dumb women, or at least women that acted dumb. But I had a dream where I didn't even know where we were, but I was with her. I think there was just kind of darkness in the background, but I started kissing her. I started having a really romantic long kiss with her, and then I fell down to the ground with her, and then I woke up right after that. I mean, I hadn't had sex yet, and I was dreaming about sex, and I was scared when I woke up because I think I wanted to have sex with her, but I wasn't ready for it, so anyway, but that's enough of my romantic and erotic dreams. I had another dream my freshman year of college, and this dream was a lot more disturbing. A lot of the kids in my dorm were in fraternities and sororities, and my roommate, who I couldn't stand, he was in a fraternity, and I never liked the fraternities, and I never wanted to join one, but I guess a lot of the kids would kind of pressure me to join one. And in this dream, I don't know why I was doing this, but I decided to visit a fraternity in Michigan where I was going to school. And everybody in the fraternity that I met had a big dog. And, it was a very scary dream for me because I'd been really scared of dogs my whole life. I mean, I was chased down by a vicious dog in our neighborhood when I was 2 years old. So until I was about 30, I was scared of dogs. I wouldn't even get near a dog. So that was a very scary dream for me. And I must have indicated a lot of my fear about frat boys and being in a fraternity. But anyway, yeah, so then when I got to graduate school, I had some other kind of weird dreams. I went to graduate school at the University of Chicago, and yeah, I remember one of my first dreams I had once I went to school there. I had a dream that I was invited to go to Chicago on a charter jet airplane leaving from San Francisco with other, physics colleagues, I guess. And I remember who the pilot was. In the dream, I didn't realize who it was, but after I woke up, I realized who it was really supposed to be. It was this horrible camp counselor I had when I was 12 years old. I went to a horrible summer camp. I had some of the worst experiences of my life at this camp. This is in real life, by the way. And our counselor, I'll give his name because I don't give a shit if he hears me or not. I'm probably never going to see this guy again. His name was Hugh Miller. And he was the pilot in the stream I had. And I remember how the dream started. I was kind of excited. We were taking this big special chartered jet to Chicago to start graduate school there. And one of the first things I asked the pilot was if he liked math. And he responded right away and he said, "Fuck you." Like he got really mad at me for asking him that. And, I kind of thought it was a joke. And I think the other kids were kind of laughing after I said that. But then he got really upset with me, and when we finally got to Chicago, he decided instead of landing at the airport runway, he decided to land in the middle of Grant Park. So he landed the plane in the middle of Grant Park. He landed it safely, but then he made me get out of the plane. So that was a pretty upsetting dream. And then I had another kind of weird dream. Shortly after I moved to Chicago, it took place in the 1920s, and I was out, I guess, in downtown Chicago, and this old jalopy from the 20s stopped, and there were gangsters in it with Gatling guns, and they kidnapped me. And they made me ride in their car, and they wanted me to join their ring of organized crime. And the funny thing about that dream was that I kind of enjoyed it. I don't know why. I thought it was kind of fun, even though I didn't do anything illegal in the dream. I never used the guns. I never did anything bad. But I kind of liked being with this gang. I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, so it's kind of a weird dream. And what else? Um, oh yeah, I had another kind of weird dream around the same time. Um, yeah, I went to. I don't know where this came from exactly, but I guess think my parents had taken me to Disneyland. I don't know if I was supposed to be in my 20s then, but um, yeah, they took me to Disneyland, and well, one of the places I liked at Disneyland was Tomorrowland. So they had a whole big exhibit on the world of tomorrow, and they had all these little gadgets there, and one of them was supposed to be this futuristic telephone. So I was pretty anxious to try it out. I picked up the telephone, except it didn't work. I couldn't hear anything on the other end. It's basically a broken phone. And I think that dream indicated some kind of failure of communication I was having at the time. But anyway, yeah. Any other dreams I want to talk about? Oh, yeah. Well, no, that's pretty much it. So, yeah, anyway, those are some personal dreams I've had. Oh, yeah, there is one more thing I want to mention. So, like I mentioned, the ancients used to think that dreams were prophecies. And I never believed that myself, although I have had a couple dreams that were pretty prophetic in a weird way. And I'll describe both of them. So the first kind of prophetic dream I had was around 1990. It was maybe a year, maybe a few months before the downfall of the Soviet Union. And I remember my dream. I think I was looking up some figures in the World Almanac, and I used to like to do this in real life. I used to, keep track of a lot of, figures like areas and populations of countries around the world. So I was looking up the area of the Soviet Union. I don't know why I was doing this, but I knew in real life that the area of the Soviet Union was approximately 8.6 million square miles. So I looked it up in this almanac in my dream, and it said it was 6.7 million square miles. And I was kind of surprised because I knew what it was in real life. I was thinking, why is it smaller than I remember? And the weird thing about it was, a year later, once the Soviet Union fell apart, Russia, I guess that was the biggest, former republic of the Soviet Union, that did have an area of almost exactly that figure. I think it was 6.5 million square miles. So kind of weird. And then the other prophetic dream, this is even weirder. Uh, about 10 years ago, I had a dream that I was taking a road trip, and I had an itinerary with me of where I was going, and it had all these cities listed along the Pacific Northwest, I think into Montana. And the weird thing about that dream was that dream really came true in a really amazing way. In 2017, I actually did take a road trip, and I was planning on taking a road trip across the whole country. I only made it to Montana because I had a car accident there, and then I had to get towed, and then I had to go back a short way back to San Francisco where I left from. But the weird thing about that dream was that the cities I went through on my way to Montana were almost exactly the same cities, almost matched perfectly with the itinerary I dreamed about. So that was pretty weird. But anyway, that's my talk about dreams. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.